But we will cover what's happening at the G20 and the G8 meeting. $1.2 billion is what it's costing for 3 days. I mean, this is the bankers. And, of course, we'll pay interest to the bankers on the money we use to pay for this. And this is also being contributed to by the U.S. government. The share that Canada's paying is $1.2 billion. Yes, that's more than the entire budget of the city of Austin, close to the budget of a city like Dallas, in 3 days in a Canadian city, and it's as big as that Canadian city's budget. This is the out-of-control looting and robbery that is going on to guard the bankers that are robbing us. So they just get it coming and going. Now, my friends, we have covered in the last 60-plus days what has happened in the Gulf since April 20th, 2010. We've covered the fact that all these big brokerage firms and now Vanguard that Obama is invested in, they dumped their stock right before. BP, 44%. The Goldman Sachs dumped 44% of that. The BP CEO dumped more than a third of his stock the week before. We know about the recovery efforts being blocked. We know all of this is going on. And we know that Obama's now trying to pass a carbon tax in the name of fixing this. But as Jesse Ventura agreed with me a few hours ago here live on the show, what does a tax have to do with cleaning up the Gulf? Now, this latest information is our top story today, and I'll show folks a document cam shot of this if they're watching on prisonplanet.tv. Oil industry insider and CFR member predicts Gulf evacuation. And it says, buried in an article on the Gulf of Mexico scenario and predictions in the Washington Post, quotes Matthew Simons, founder and chairman emeritus of Simons and Company International. In response to a tropical storm brewing in the Caribbean, Simons says, quote, we're going to have to evacuate the Gulf states. Can you imagine evacuating 20 million people? This story is 80 times worse than I had thought. And then it continues here in the article. The National Hurricane Center went on to say 40% chance or a mid-level chance that this will turn into a tropical storm. This current storm will drive oil out of the Gulf. That's you know, the vast majority of it is still out in the ocean into land, and it's very toxic crude oil with record levels of all these toxic heavy metals and methane and benzene that is off-gassing. You know about the medical workers getting sick, people 5 miles in, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, getting sick, the oil and tar hitting the beaches, the Obama administration and BP blocking the Coast Guard, blocking the states, blocking everybody from cleaning it up. That's back in the news today, just blocking it everywhere to make it as bad as they can. Then all the evidence that this was an inside job. It just goes from bad to worse. But I remember a month ago seeing articles saying, you know, the troops are going to be deployed, 40 million are going to be driven out. And I said, or troops had been deployed and it had already begun. So I called those towns and found out there wasn't evacuations going on. But now, a lot of times those are based on rumors that have a basis in fact. Now we're starting to see the EPA say, you know, we may have to evacuate certain areas when this real oil comes in on shore and backs up in the rivers and estuaries. And you've got the feds 10 miles into the estuaries in Louisiana and Mississippi saying no fishing, no boating. So the feds are really taking over and blocking any aid. And if this toxic oil, some estimates are 50 million, some are above 100 million gallons, does get blown in, because the currents are just going to take it around Florida and out to the Atlantic, and that's a big problem, and up the East Coast, but most of it stays out to sea. Just the leading edge hits land, just a very small percentage. But with hurricanes and tropical storms, that blows the water in to the Gulf, into the Gulf states. I mean, this could be a disaster of biblical proportions.
So you think the massive Gulf oil leak won't affect the air you breathe? Think again. Benzene, a toxic gas emitted from crude oil and a known carcinogen, is now airborne, traveling hundreds, even thousands of miles inland. Whether you live near the Gulf or not, benzene and other volatile organic compounds could cause adverse reactions to those living inside your home. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, came to airfiltersandpurifiers.com for answers on how to clean the air on boats, aiding in the Gulf cleanup. Do what Noah did. Contact airfiltersandpurifiers.com and ask about the HealthMate Plus. The HealthMate Plus is capable of trapping 99.97% of all polluting particulates. Buy the HealthMate Plus today with no tax, free shipping, a 5-year warranty, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to airfiltersandpurifiers.com. GCN listeners get a 5% discount by using promo code GCN. Call 800-499-2418 or go to airfiltersandpurifiers.com, your trusted advisor for clean air.
The question is, where should the American people draw their line in the sand?
What have we got? A republic or a monarchy?
A republic is based on a constitution which protects minority rights.
Not democracy, not mob rule, 2 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner.
So they think they own our land, they think they own our water, children, our education, our money.
We have to define who we are and what we will tolerate.
Somebody's going to ask you what you did during the Patriot Uprising.
You have been warned.
We have the facts. We have the Constitution. We have the Bill of Rights. We have common law. Knowledge is power, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm so excited to be able to offer you Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic. Tyranny is upon us, but liberty and the sleeping giant that is the American people is rising. A new tool in the info war. Don't Tread on Me. Order it at Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139 and support independent, patriotic Liberty films.
Are you wondering about your retirement portfolio? Are you confident that the financial advisor is experienced enough to combat climbing interest rates, taxes, and inflation? Stop guessing and go to the expert, Robert Chapman of the International Forecaster. When you subscribe to the International Forecaster, you get Robert Chapman's 45 years of experience and concise investment recommendations. Who needs sugar-coated excuses when you can get the cold hard facts and proven investment leads you can't get anywhere else? For a free introductory copy to Robert Chapman's International Forecaster, subscribe now at theinternation.forecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. Experience the difference. When you subscribe, you can email Robert Chapman directly to obtain investment advice tailored just for you. Don't wait another minute. Subscribe today at theinterntionalforecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178.
Hello, this is Alex Jones with some important questions. If you're going into a battle and they give you a rifle and a sidearm, how much ammunition do you want? My answer would be all I can get. In the battle for freedom and the lives of your loved ones, food is your only ammunition. How much do you want? When do you want it? Now or after the battle starts? When will you need it? Can you buy it without proper identification? Will there be any food? Will it make your children sick? If there's a quarantine and you can't feed yourself, will you go to the gathering center and be immunized? You wipe out all these problems if you have a good food supply. Food is your ammunition to fight for your freedom and your life. How much will you need? We don't know. How much do you want? All you can get. I'm Alex Jones. I want all of you good guys to live to fight another day. Call 1-800-409-5633 or check it out on the web at efoodsdirect.com. Again, that number, 1-800-409-5633. All right, there's a couple different ways to look at this. There's a couple different ways that we can perceive this, or maybe more than a couple. I mean, when we post this video up at prisonplanet.tv, you're welcome in the prisonplanet.com forum to go in there and give us your view on it. But you have the CFR member putting out the party line. It's the CFR that writes the amnesty plans, the CFR that writes the war plans, the CFR that creates the policy for the private corporate structure, and then it's handed off to the politicians. As Hillary Clinton has admitted in speeches, she says, I love coming to the CFR so you can tell me what to do. And she was serious. That was just a few months ago. And so when you've got a CFR member in the big CIA publication, Washington Post, promoting the idea of 20 million being forced to evacuate out of Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Mexico. Because, yeah, the oil spill hasn't hit Texas because it happened off the coast of Louisiana, and the currents are taking it east and then southeast and then north up the East Coast. That's the trek. That's the track. That's what they predicted 60-plus days ago when it first happened on April 20th, and that is indeed where the currents have gone. But once the tropical storms start, and then the hurricanes do a south to north track, and they vary to the west or the east, but it's always north. And so it's going to push that oil into Texas, Mexico, Cuba, just in all different directions, really stirring it up. And it's so toxic, and it's so much of it. They first lied about it and said it was a few million barrels, and now they're saying it's even more. They're talking about it being 50 million gallons, 100 million gallons, 150 million gallons. No one knows, but you can see it in the NASA satellites all over the Gulf now, and now starting to go out into the wider Atlantic Ocean, the central Atlantic. So you have the Washington Post promoting the idea now as a trial balloon of martial law, of mass evacuation. You have